Hello, good evening, and welcome to PM Express Personality Friday. Tonight, my guest is an award-winning broadcaster and a communications director and trainer. He is arguably one of Africa's finest television and events host and creative marketers. He was recently honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award for his immense contribution to disc jockeying, entertainment, and broadcasting media. He is the cool, cultivated, and classy king of swagger, media branding, and entertainment. His royal blackness, the KKD, the finest.
Where do you get all this
my
from?
guest tonight.
How are you,
It's great
Stephen?
to have you here,
Great
KKD.
to see you. Great
So
to see
tell
you.
me, who's KKD?
KKD is he's a good son, an excited father, a proud citizen of his motherland, Ghana. And, he's just, I guess, a good citizen of the universe as well, because wherever he goes, he tries to do right by his God, his family, and himself. But most importantly, he's a free, creative spirit who does not lick boots.
You've done quite tremendous, in the media scene. The last time I knew you were at GIPC. That's what I remember. But you've been everywhere. You've been at Ghana Breweries Limited. You've done promos here and there. You've I think, emceed for Miss Ghana. Everything you've done some before. So let's start from where your inspiration started. Growing up, did you want it to be a public figure and perhaps
Well, as a kid, I think first
stuff?
and foremost, I was a logophile, somebody who loved words, the use of words. If somebody said something and they said it beautifully, I got excited about it. As a kid, I learned the lines of Martin Luther King. There was a time when I used to recite the I Have a Dream thing.
Really?
I loved it. And Desiderata, I still remember the Desiderata from head top to bottom. I still remember If by Rudyard Kipling from top to bottom. I just loved poetry. I used to talk about how I would love to represent my country someday. I want to be an emissary for my country. And in what specific field of endeavor, I never said. But once you say represent your country, everybody says ambassador. But if you're a fashion designer and you make a great name, you make a great name for your country.
So which name do you think you've made for yourself as an ambassador, a fashion designer? Which one is it?
I think
you've done a lot of things.
I think the name I made for myself is for those after me to talk about. And I think those after me talk about the fact that I've helped people think very clearly about non-verbal communication, the way they dress, as well as verbal communication, the way they elocute the words and the way they choose the words they use. And I've learned also, and I guess I've found a way of getting my friends and proteges in the communications industry to understand the art of disagreeing with others without being disagreeable. And I think that's very important, not only for entertainment, media, arts, and culture, but for parliament. You've got to be able to listen to others, as I have done my uncles over the years. Dr. Mwakutu for Joe, P.V. Obeng, A.V. Obeng, my uncle Nanawai Duasare, who was the chief of Abejum. He doesn't start by saying, no, me no nyajin. He starts by saying, me no nyajin, name. So he disagrees with you, but he starts by finding some common ground where he can agree with you, and then he puts his point across. It's easier for people to embrace your thoughts when you come across that way than when you're always finding a way to fight with them. And I think I've helped, if you ask me and if you push me, I think I've helped radio find a certain breed of presenter.
How have you done that?
Who is proud that he's African, who is proud that he's learned, and yet has chosen to work in the communications industry. Because there was some time ago where we who came first in class at school felt the need. I used to come first in class at school, but in Presec, they pushed you to do science if you came first in class at school, as they did me.
Yeah.
And they pushed you to become a doctor. Why? Because I guess they thought at the time that medicine required.
So you were a science student at
science student, yeah,
up to sixth form.
Science students through and through. And when I look back on it all, I can also say I've done something which maybe 100 years from now, somebody will look back and say, it's possible for fathers to raise children the way they claim only mothers can, because since the unfortunate failure of my marriage, after 7 years of blissful marriage, I've raised my son and daughter by myself. And women can do it, and I think women do it very well, but if men put their minds to it, they can do it too. So that fatherhood thing is maybe the most important thing I'd like to remember.
You talk about being African. Your whole persona, the way you dress and present yourself, doesn't exactly exude African.
Well, that's another thing. You must be African and be cosmopolitan. I cannot say I'm so African that I refuse to drive in my Mercedes in Ghana or my Jaguar in England. And nor can I say I'm so African that I'm going to wear a hinema to run in the Olympic Games. There's got to be things that we embrace as part of world culture. You know, a good suit is a good suit. A good suit is the uniform of business.
It doesn't matter where it's worn, whether in Ghana or New York.
Of business wherever you are. Yeah, I saw you have to go and change to wear what you're wearing now to come on here. I'm wearing what I've worn the whole day. Well, there's air conditioning. I mean, I wouldn't wear this walking in the 90 degrees heat in the shade. Yeah. However, it's the uniform of business. Nurses everywhere in the world wear similar clothes. Doctors everywhere in the world use similar stethoscopes. And you've got to understand that you must say, yes, I am African, but yes, I embrace the things with which I work. Yes, I learn about the tools with which I work. I do not say because I'm African, I must be substandard. No.
Let's talk about you in the media. I don't remember when you sprung up, but tell us where your interest in media began. And then from there, we'll chart the other courses of
My interest in media began as a boy because in primary school, I used to write short plays and we would act them at entertainment. But I was a logophile, like I said. I would learn words in the dictionary. You know, if I got an argument with somebody and it got nasty, I would use only I's to insult them, like, no, you inebriated iniquitous imp. Or, you know, I'd read stuff in books like The Wanderers, and if somebody really got on my nerves and it was really bad.
Oh, we have photographs of you. Let's see. Is that you? That's you and your kids.
Kwasi Kyei Darkwah.
So this is in London, right?
We were on vacation in
Belgium.
Vacation
in Belgium, okay.
Yes, this is at home in London.
At home in London.
In Kensington.
Okay. Kensington. That's a posh area of London you were living.
It's London.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, your kids, they took after you, really. I mean, their sense of fashion and dress and style.
Versions.
And I've seen somewhere you've referred to your kids as award-winning kids.
Yes.
Why did you?
My son is 15. My son at 15 became the world's #1 youth speaker in the Model United Nations Conference competition. And my daughter at 14 became the top speaker in the 2 richest boroughs in England. You know, the 2 richest boroughs in England are Kensington and Chelsea, where the Prime Minister lives, and Westminster, where the Queen lives. And they have this speakers contest called the Jack Perche Speak Out Challenge.
Those are your 2 kids dressed in all white there?
Yes, we're going for a garden party someplace. Yes. And they choose whatever they want to wear. My duty is to just pay the bills.
And indeed you pay them big, right? I mean, is it expensive to, be the father of celebrity kids, really?
They're hardworking kids. My boy just had a fashion show 2 days ago, at which a good number of celebrities in England attended. He's only 19. He's in first year in university studying fashion design, but he has a mind of his own. And, I remember, that's my daughter going to her school prom.
Is that her boyfriend or something?
No, that's my son. Kweku standing right next to her. Because Kweku escorted her, took her to the school, and then came back. Yeah, Kweku and Ohima. This is Sunday after church.
Okay.
And we go to Lighthouse Chapel in London.
You speak very fondly of your kids. What's the relationship between you and the kids?
I adore them to bits.
I mean, I've seen photographs of you with your kids traveling everywhere. So you go everywhere with them?
Not.
It makes me wonder, really, whether they have a life of their own.
Not during the school term, because during the school term, it's all about school. It bothers me when I have to travel for work, because I've had to come to Ghana to work for television, do an event for Stanbic Bank, you know, a beautiful dinner. In the sand on the beach, and now I'm here with you.
You do enjoy
And when I have to travel, I have to get a member of my family to move into my house to be there with them. But the boy's just moved out to home recently. He says he's a big boy now and he wants to have a place of his own. So we miss him.
You're not worried, right?
No, he comes
because
by.
the influences in London, if you live in a city like London, there are so many influences. I don't know whether they've had the privilege to live in black suburbs like Southwark or Camberwell. And
unfortunately,
the influences that
they've
not picked up along the line.
Somebody would say fortunately not, but I'll say unfortunately not. Because
why unfortunately?
No, you want them to still
They've
mix
been growing
with
up quintessentially English, right? Is that what you meant for them?
I guess
Ah, that's you and Dibanj,
Dubanj,
right?
yeah. You know, and the thing is, everybody wants to give their kids the best possible life they can. I'm not wealthy. I'm comfortable, but
How
I'm
comfortable are you?
quite comfortable.
Quite comfortable. I mean, if you look in the Ghanaian terms and you say you're not wealthy but quite comfortable, what exactly does it mean?
Comfortable is, you know, if I decide every quarter I want to go on a vacation, I can afford to do that.
Afford to do that.
You know, I can afford to drive in the kind of car I want to drive in. My kids can afford to go on a vacation where they want to. My boy's already been to China. They've already been to Sweden. And the thing is that, you know, he's a member of the Victoria and Albert Museum, and they get to go to exhibitions, they get to go to shows, they get to learn things which, if your parents are not willing to spend the money on, they won't have.
Life has been good for you, right?
God is
I mean,
kind
looking
to
back to when you started broadcasting, and you were once a DJ. I mean, people didn't quite give so much respect to DJs until
I changed that.
KKD came along.
I changed that, because to start with, here's a kid who comes first at school. So you know full well, if you were in school with him, that he's smart.
Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe smarter than you. And then you knew he has chosen this as a hobby. Now, when you go on vacation, what are you doing? You're hanging with your friends. He has equipment, and he moves the equipment into places, and he plays, and he makes money. I bought my first car in Ghana when I was 18 years old. I mean, these were back in the days when, you know, we didn't have a newspaper round for kids in Ghana, so you couldn't make any money, as it were. But I had a good hobby. My hobby paid. And then, you know, I found that broadcasting pays. I started reading about a man called Aaron Spelling, who owned almost all the key television programs that people were interested in watching in America. And, you know, we didn't have the internet then. You had to go to the library to read about these people. Yeah. You know, eventually I would go to the US, you know, IS. And I was always reading there. So much so that the director of the USIS became my friend, because he saw I was always coming there to read stuff. You know, when people were going over to record tapes to play, I was reading. I'd go over, you know, have my tapes recorded. I'd spend just a little time there and go back and read. And when I learned about Aaron Spelling, I was like, wow, he owns the television programming. How does he do that? He puts together the writers. He puts together young producers. He gets the program rolling. Once the sponsors come in, almost all the money is his. He makes more money than 28 doctors and 28 lawyers put together. He makes more money than baseball players and footballers put together. So if money is your motivation, that's an industry that makes money. Why doesn't it in Africa? I guess because we haven't got the structures in place. But if the structures are in place, Abel White should be one of the richest men in this country. Because when he puts on a show, and that show is sold to a television network that has a big audience, and they sell it on further to Nigeria, to Malawi, to Zimbabwe, all that money,
there's money we're talking about.
So if you're motivated by money, the creative enterprise is a fantastic place to make money. Because let's talk about, you know, my neighbors. Most of my neighbors in Kensington are hedge fund managers, investment bankers.
Footballers.
No, we don't have footballers in Kensington. They go further out.
For prime
No, because they want a place where they can have like a big swimming pool. And, you know, in Kensington, a one-bedroom pad is over £1 million sterling. So, you know, and I guess a lot of them would be uncomfortable there, because the social strata is such that, you know, if you're not really very well educated, money alone doesn't cut it. Money alone doesn't cut it. So you see all these guys in hedge funds and stuff. When they take the money, what do they do with it? They invest the money in people who are creative, people who are making the new iPads and the new tablets and the new fashion designs. That's where the money goes. So if you are in creative industry, you are in something worthwhile.
I'm fascinated about your ability then to juggle all of that with education. I know a lot of people look up to you, but many people have also followed you systematically to even know that you hold a Master of Arts degree in film and television production from London Met. So, I mean, whilst you were doing all that, how did you juggle that with education from the time you were at Ghana Institute of Journalism through to London Met?
See, it's interesting. I got a job at the GBC at the time when I was starting the Ghana Institute of Journalism. I was a kid. I was 20 years old. And it's clear, my father's always said this, the more you learn, the more you earn. And my father always also reminds you that earning is not just the cash that comes into your hand, because there's social capital. You know, I'll give you somebody who has such fantastic social capital in this country. If he chose not to carry any money, he would still carry that social capital. Mensa Otabil. Duncan Williams, Dag Heward-Mills. The social capital these people have, you cannot buy with all the drugs money from Colombia. Massive. But then also, you can gain some respect amongst your contemporaries by learning your trade. It's not enough to say, I know how to do this. You know, for me, it's always been about three things. Do you have the practice? Yes. But did you get the training? Yes. Now, do you have the social skills? Yes. If you don't have these three, you always get to a glass ceiling. You'll be stuck.
You'll be stuck.
You know, because some people have the practice, but they do not understand why it's done the way it's done. And that is what an education does for you. You know, we can all go buy the Constitution and read it. But the guy who invests the time to go to law school gets to see precedents that occurred even before your Constitution was written. And then they get to learn about cases that are still going on that make a case for a certain case that they have to deal with. If you don't go to school, you can't come and tell me that you know it all, because you go there to learn about the thoughts of others so you can improve upon your own thoughts. And I chose to do media. I didn't choose to do medicine. If you want to do media, the basic is journalism and public relations.
Which you started with.
Yes.
So walk us through that path from the time of the media. And
so
you're doing a lot more things now.
Yeah.
You're into branding,
Exactly.
corporate branding, and other forms of businesses. Yeah. So walk us through the path and how you made the transition.
So at 19,
what other people should
at
learn
19,
from that?
guest artist on radio. I go on Carlageman Bannerman's Solid Black. He says, I like the way you speak. You speak boldly, you speak confidently, you speak clearly, but you speak too fast.
So,
you know, so you've got to bring the speed down, which is very difficult for me because at the time I was the only person in Ghana who was rapping. You know, I'd come on radio, I'd rap, I'd go and do the embassy.
Do you still rap?
I still write poetry, but not exactly
Not
rap.
exactly rap.
I mean, if
Have
I
you
had to rap.
outgrown rap?
No. You never outgrow it. Once a soldier, always a soldier. You know, once a footballer, always a footballer. It's something I enjoy. I mean, I've done something with Chiame Kwame and Sarkodie for fun, an intro. We call it the intro to the GH hero. And so I'm doing this stuff as a guest artist, whilst I'm working as a guest relations officer at our family-owned hotel, whilst I'm also working, doing work for the Department of National Lotteries, because we have a few lotto kiosks in Tema. I have one myself. And whilst I'm also learning to be a clearing and forwarding agent, because one day when I ship loads of stuff to Ghana, I want to be able to go there and clear them myself. Or one day when I want my non-labor income to be coming in, I just open a shipping agency and employ some very pretty people to work for me and clear stuff. And at 20, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to the School of Journalism, or I'm going to have to go to NAFTI. It's two things in Ghana. So which one is it going to be? Am I going to be a technical person? Am I going to be behind the cameras? Am I going to be off the microphone, or am I going to be on camera? If you're on camera, you're talent. I'm more talent than technical. So it's got to be the School of Journalism. Yeah. So that's where I go. And I already have a job at GBC whilst I'm going to the School of Journalism. Sometimes it clashes with the schedules that I have to work with. So I'll talk to Jimmy Amepofor and say, look, man, if you don't want to open the station, I'll do your shift for you. But you have to do this for me. And then I'll talk to Yawa Samoa, who's my shift leader. He says, no, you have to be here. If he says I have to be there, I have to miss a class. But I knew education was important because many years ago I saw on a T-shirt in the States, and I was telling that to Abdullah I would do today, who's my junior in Presec, and he's a sharp guy. Abdullah should go to Parliament one day. He has a brain that takes like a time bomb. He's listening
to you.
He's sharp. And I was telling them, I saw this T-shirt in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where this guy had emblazoned on his chest. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. So I wasn't going to stop going to school. I knew I had to get that diploma because at the time, the School of Journalism was not a degree awarding school. Yeah. And I'd always go to Kojo Yanka, who was the director of the school. I'm like, I can't understand why such an important institution is awarding diplomas. He says, time. Take your time. I know they've done it.
We all went through that system, and I mean, when you look at the difficulty in getting enrollment in UK, for example, I mean, it was absolutely very difficult for you to be accepted with a diploma, which they rated as a polytechnic certificate or something. Like
that. That's because I think we lacked the political will to make that a proper university. Because when it was set up, I think it was set up essentially as a propaganda institution. Serve the Prophet Kwame Nkrumah and all that. But You know, so from there, here I am at GBC. I'm doing my radio programs. I'm doing my music programs. I had a great interest in music. You know, my father had been a music promoter many years. We had record stores in Ghana. He was like one of the coolest cats back in the day. Very sharp dresser. My mom, very cool lady, you know, slim in her stilettos and all that. They were cool. They were ice cold.
Really cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know.
and living in Tema was a swag for you.
You know, so all the cool people came to us. You know, African Brothers Band, what's his name? Onyon Tofoyine, Nana Kwame Ampedu, Jadu Blay, Ambule, Papa Ray, Anyon Smith, who used to do the Simigo rap too, just like Ambule. If you were cool, you hang with my parents. You know, and I saw all that, and I thought, and I saw the money my father was making from entertainment, because he had these lotto kiosks, he had these record shops, and, you know, he was doing great. And I'm like, wow. So this man is doing great with all this stuff, and he's talking to me about going to be a doctor. You know, why do I want to be a doctor? I know it's good. Maybe one of my kid brothers and sisters can do that, but not me. You know, and so at GBC, I started looking at what one does with a diploma in journalism or a degree in communications. And I started seeing about branding, brand management. And I started seeing about corporate communication. At the time, they called it public relations. Yeah. And I started seeing about producing events, and producing conferences. So I started learning all I could about it. I'd go to the USIS, bother whoever was the director there, ask questions. I'd go to the British Council, bother whoever was the director there, ask questions. Because I'd come open the station in the morning by 5. I'd drive from Tema, come and open the station. Sometimes my dad would drive me if my car wouldn't start, which was very often, because I never had a good battery.
Because you were poor at the time?
Not exactly, but I didn't want to buy a battery. I just didn't want to buy a battery. I'd buy shoes rather than buy a battery. You know, so, you know, sometimes he would drive me. I'd call him early in the morning. I said, Dad, my car wouldn't start, and he'd bring me to work.
Aren't you lucky?
Yeah. You know, he's a good man. JK.
So, I mean, you've gone through all of these, and then today, sitting here, when you look at yourself and the successes you've chalked, what will be the single advice you give to young people who aspire to be you? What will be your advice to them? How will they go about it?
Don't look at the swag. Educate yourself.
Educate
because I've got too many youngsters who are just fascinated about, I love the way KKD dresses. I want to dress like him. No. See, what you wear is only an outer manifestation of an inner conviction. It's an outer manifestation of an inner conviction. You know, be convinced that you are somebody, right? But don't be empty inside. Learn something. Be good at something.
Are you a happy man?
Extremely so.
Every
single day is a happy day.
Right. We'll take a break. I'm hanging out with KKD, the finest. And we'll take a break. And when we return, I'll read some of your messages that are coming in for KKD. And you can send us more by text 1760. Post them on our Facebook wall, facebook.com/joynewsontv. Or if you're on Twitter, send us a tweet. Our handle is Joy News on TV as well. If you have a tablet or your phone, you can send us a WhatsApp on 0544334722. We'll be right back. Welcome to PM Express Personality Friday, and I'm hanging out with His Royal Blackness, KKD, the finest. KKD, I've got a couple of messages coming here, and I want to read some of them.
Wow.
So maybe this one from Yao Dunkwa says that, KKD, where is your briefcase that you used to carry along when you come to Presec in the 80s and 90s?
You have to describe which one, because I've had a number of iconic briefcases. Which one?
Oh, well, I don't know.
One of the glass ones?
Well, yeah, Dunkwa, you have to just send us a description of this particular briefcase we're talking about. And then Osei from Tamale, Tobinko says, host, I like your guest. I've learnt a lot from him tonight. He's a good motivator. Hi to KKD. That's a good one. Oh my God, KKD is my mentor, the one I look up to. Big ups to you. This one doesn't have a name. And Kweku PSC Bwama says that, Master KKD, you truly deserve it. Yay. And Mbwachi says, KKD, I just love his sense of fashion. And Mark Philip Gayson says, Odadie for you. We'll talk about your Odadie days and the guys you used to hang out with.
To be Muslim man.
All right, Odadie with that. So Charles Nelson says, my mentor, when he speaks, it's all sad. And Kobia Jimandria says, a Christian gentleman. And Peter Petko Kobina says that I still remember his KKD 45 show. And Dominic Odami Kusi says, all people of Dompoasi salute our dear son.
That's my cream.
KKD. And Judy Men says, hey, KKD, wow, the finest. So let's get to basic. What happened to the KKD 45 show?
KKD 45
what was it?
It's really essentially a 45-minute program that I started. You know, I traveled over to the U.S., paid for by the United States Information Service and the United States Information Agency on a program called Young African Leaders. They had a similar thing in Europe called the Young European Leaders, on which Margaret Thatcher had, attended. So I felt very proud. Just having that link, that's something that Margaret Thatcher had attended when she was younger. I got to attend a similar thing in Africa. And they went around Africa looking for outstanding mass communicators. That's the word they used. And I got lucky to get this letter. It's sent to the Director General of the GBC, nominating me to represent Ghana. Well, I knew of the letter, but I didn't hear anything from the Director General. I'm happy to name and shame, because the letter actually went to a gentleman called David Anaglate. Yeah. I'm made to understand the letter was put in the bin. Now, that's pathetic. That's pathetic. And I got to know about this because there were people in the office who were not very happy about it. That a member of staff, let's name any other banks in Ghana, Fidelity, Stanbic, Standard Chartered, Barclays. You have an outstanding performer in your bank, maybe in public affairs and communications. And some, non-governmental organizations says, well, there's a program on which outstanding personalities get to benefit. They go on it, they get $150 a day per diem, they sleep in 4-star hotels, and they get, extra training so they can come back home, and when they practice, other people can learn.
So you didn't get to go on this trip?
I didn't get to go on this trip. So the next year, the director of the USIS, Ambassador Daniel McGaffey, because I think he's ambassador somewhere now, he was just, he kind of liked me. His wife just thought, look, you should be in the States, because, the stuff that a young man, called Larry King is now doing on radio is what you're already doing here. The stuff that Don Cornelius used to do on Soul Train is what you're already doing here. You have the cojones to do all that. So this Daniel McGaffey was quite upset that they didn't even get a response from the GBC. And so the next time he wrote to the GBC, he copied the office of the president. And then they copied me as well. But this time around, the new director general, I think was somebody, Mr. George Ayi was the director general, I think. The letter went there. I was called, I was told there's a letter, I'd been nominated to attend the program. It was going to take me away from work. I said, well, it won't hurt if I go, because I think it's a training program. Only 21 Africans of all the 54 nations of Africa got to go on this. And I was the only one from Ghana, only one from each country as well. And I went. Now, when I was away there, I was an attachment with CNN International. I got to be on TV. And when I was spoken to on television, I didn't use the idiot sheet, the auto cue. Yeah. And so Eason Jordan, who was at the time the vice president of World Report, he came to me and spoke to me later because he thought my accent was very much unlike my brothers who I traveled with from Africa. And he asked me what I would like to stay. I said, no way. Back in the day, you wanted to come back home and change. You wanted to change the world.
Make an impact.
We learned along the lines you couldn't change the world in Ghana, So here I was, looking at everything they were doing there, and all I kept saying was, we can do this in Ghana. And then I went on attachment at VOA. And there too I was interviewed, and I remember Richard Cote was working at the VOA at the time, and he had told everybody about me already. He was talking, he would tell these fantastic lady who was on VOA who used to do the entertainment stuff, says, look, there's this guy in Ghana, when he comes over, he's much better than all of you. Richard Cote used to say the nicest things about me. Oh, he's such a gentleman, God bless him. And so when I went to the VOA, same thing, he said, would you like to stay and work? I said, no way, I want to go back to Ghana and work. I mean, some of the 21 people didn't come back home, just like footballers from Nigeria do. They go on a tournament, nobody comes.
You don't want to go there.
But I wanted to come back because I thought I was going to come back to Ghana and I'd change the world.
And you did.
Well,
and then you started a KKD.
I didn't change the world. I changed my circumstances, and it influenced, a small part of the youth in Ghana. It showed a lot of youngsters, whether it's Abeku Santana, Kwame Sefakai, Komla Dumont, Kofi Ochiri-Darko, many of them. I mean, in interviews, they themselves would say, look, I used to look up to KKD. I wanted to do what KKD is doing. I'm happy I'm doing it now. Kofi Owusu, Yawan Pofu Ankara, so many of them. So I came to Ghana and I said, look, I've seen how to do the TV programs. It's not a lot of work. You just have a synopsis. You write your links. You get your guests. You know, you get a researcher to get some information about the guests, and you have a conversation with them. It's easy. But nobody was doing it here. You know, since way back in the day when Gordon Avenobo had his own program, there were no eponymous shows. No show where the presenter had his name on it. So I spent my own money producing KKD 45. I went to the Golden Tulip, whom I had presented shows for before, and they were excited about it because they thought, hey, he knows what he's doing. Let's give him some help. So they said, you can use our conference room. But I wanted the audience seated in the style they have in America. So I went over to, is it Kokompe, where they sell the wood? And an uncle of mine, Sarkodie, Mr. Sarkodie, went with me. He says, Kwasi, you want to do a TV program? I'm going to pay for half of the wood. He has a big printing press. You know, Sarkodie Press. He prints a lot of stuff for the, customs and excise. He paid for half of the wood for me. We had all these constructions. So when people started, it was like risers. And we started KKD 45. And one of my guests, first guest, was Kofi Wayo. He came on wearing 2 Rolex watches, one here, one there. And, you know, I was chatting with people like Kowawuna, who came on and talked about, if you want to see the character of a man, look at his shoes. I had Orekwa Mofa on. I had Kofi Wayo. I had Dr. Mwaku Tufo, who's written Ghana's budget for nearly 12 years. He writes it, the minister comes to read it. And, you know, it's my mother's little brother, actually. And it caught on. And I think it just showed people that, you know what, we're sitting here watching Oprah, but we can try and start doing what Oprah is doing here, as opposed to constantly buying what they're making. Because if we grow our own, we can create some brands. I didn't get much support. I remember Sam Jonah called me to his office once at AGC. At the time, it wasn't Anglo Gold, it was
Ashanti Goldfields.
Ashanti Goldfields. He called me to his office, you know, Dr. Sam Jonah. And, you know, when Sam Jonah calls you to his office when you're working at GBC,
it's a big deal.
You got to be bothered. What's going on? Did I do something wrong? You know, so I sit down. He says, you made me very proud yesterday. He says, I had guests from the United States, I had guests from England. They're watching television, they thought it was boring, they thought it was crap. And then you came on. And then they said, nah, this boy must have been educated in our country. But I had only educated myself here in Ghana. You know, I traveled, but I went to school here. And he says, yeah, so you did me proud. How much did it cost to make that program? Because I didn't see any commercials in it.
When you look back,
he paid for the program.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He just gave me the money in an envelope.
When you look back to the impact KKD 45 have had, and perhaps whether you feel that there have been a lot of influences on shaping similar programs in the media, what would you say? What are your observations?
I feel disappointed. I feel disappointed.
You think the media hasn't
I still feel disappointed because
a lot of quality TV
if you lined up all your presenters yesterday, maybe after this program, once we've explained it, they all know. But you hear presenters still, you know, a lot of presenters still saying he's abreast with the time. He's abreast off. It's basic. We can't still make these errors and claim to be broadcasters. I mean, if you told a nurse to take up a patient's spectacles and she took off the testicles, you kill the patient.
You kill the patient.
So my point is, you are a broadcaster. You're not a footballer. You use words as the tools of your trade.
You have to use the correct
Learn
words.
them. The linguist speaks better than the king.
Yeah.
The king may think his thoughts, but the linguist must take those thoughts and string them beautifully like the beads on an African woman's waist, and then present them to the public.
KKD, let's talk about your family, your life. I mean, you have kids, so obviously you married. What happened to your marriage?
I married, yes. I failed at marriage.
How did you fail? When you say you failed, is it that you take responsibility for
I
the
think
breakdown?
I married on a high, and somebody told me in England, and maybe I should quote him, an Indian friend of mine, Shaz, he said, you know what? When you marry like you're crazy in love, man, those marriages don't work. You got to marry like, yo, we're friends. We got to make this work, you know. You pay your way, I pay my way. But you don't go marrying and trying to do everything to please somebody. Be friends and just go. But don't be so crazy in love you want to do everything.
Is that what you did?
I don't know about what I did, but I know that we had 6 years of bliss. I don't know about her. You have to ask her
Tell us
about
your wife, your ex-wife.
My ex-wife. I don't think it's fair to talk about my ex-wife.
No, I mean, just tell us
She's
some of the good memories you have.
Adorable girl.
Of her,
adorable girl.
Perhaps how you met, and looking back, you feel that you haven't met anyone as
boy.
better as her.
Konkonsa boy. Lovely girl. Lovely girl. Still a very lovely young lady. We met when she was 19. I was 25 at the time. At the time we met, I was getting ready to, I think, go to the U.S. And thing is, I had a girlfriend at the time, so really I shouldn't have had anything to do with her. But being the young fool that I was, I went and spoke to her. And actually, she came to look for me where I worked. She came with Ken Amo's daughter to my workplace, so that's how we actually met. And became friends. One thing led to another, and I became a very dear friend to her, and we married. I wed her on her 21st birthday. I was a hopeless romantic. And we had 2 beautiful children.
So by the time you were separated, she was like 28 years?
Something like that.
And this happened whilst you were in London?
Yeah, London. You know, something in the water that makes people divorce in London. I mean, a lot of marriages that fall apart abroad would still work if they were back in Ghana.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, I think I bumped into you once at the Canary Wharf, but
yeah,
I couldn't have a word with you.
Why didn't you stop and talk to me?
I don't know, but you know when you are in London.
I had a girlfriend in Canary Wharf.
When you are in London and people mind their own business, especially the Ghanaian community. You don't want you have communities.
I'm not all about Ghanaian community. When I'm in London, it's London community.
I try to mind my own business.
I've got Jewish friends. I've got Arab friends, from the Emirates.
So tell us what went wrong, really.
What went wrong?
With that marriage?
I think we stopped communicating.
Is it the pressures of celebrity, the pressures of being a star?
No.
She couldn't cope, or you couldn't cope?
No.
I mean, was she able to deal with the fact that you are a very, very
I think I'm not able to answer for her. I'll be very honest with you, but I think we ceased communicating as people should. And I think we married on the wrong note. I accept that now, and I refuse to blame somebody for the errors that have gone on in my life. My marriage failed.
So if you had a second chance, what would you do different?
If I had a second chance, I would marry somebody who is equally yoked. This whole concept in Africa where men think because you look after a woman, she will love you is wrong. It's wrong.
So did you marry again?
I'm not yet remarried. I have 2 children. I've been busy trying to raise them right.
You don't exactly want to marry, right?
Oh, there's somebody in my life who's fantastic. Ava is adorable, and if she would like to marry me, if she will have me, maybe we can talk about it.
But I'm also told that you firmly believe in polygamy. Is that your
No, my father has only 3 wives, but they belong,
only 3 wives.
They belong to a different
That's
era.
polygamous.
Yeah, but
so you were the son of the first wife.
Yeah, of course.
And then
your
brother Yao, who was
that's my
City
same
mother.
Yeah, same mother.
Okay.
Thing is, you see, they belong to a totally different era. They belong to an era where if a man was wealthy, it was expected that he would invest in the community and that he would take on, a few people and look after them. But people don't do stuff for free. Anything that's for free, if it's good, it comes from God. If it's from man, they want something in return. But don't ever, and I say this to every young man there, listen, just because you're paying somebody's bills doesn't mean they will love you back. Because if you're paying bills all the time, what's going to happen is that somewhere along the line, when they think you've paid enough bills and they want somebody to pay more bills, you're out of the game.
You're out. They'll kick you out.
You're out of the game.
So you don't actually you believe.
No, I can't go out with a poor girl anymore. No. End of story.
End of story.
No.
But you don't date more.
If I move my
jag,
jag,
you don't date more than one woman?
No, one woman at a time. But the truth is, this whole concept of looking after somebody, some girls do it too. I've seen it in England where ladies have looked after guys to put them through school. And then once the guys are finished, it's a totally different story. This is not the case of my wife and I. This is the case of everybody.
Yeah.
Don't go into relationships thinking, I am looking after somebody. No. Go into relationships looking for somebody who is looking after themselves, and you are looking after yourself, and you both look after your children. Because too many people are hurting from investing years of time and effort in people who, as soon as they find their feet, turn their backs on them.
You made reference to the fact that I don't know whether you ever said it, that you were hopeless romantic, but
yep.
I've seen you do the Valentine shows, and you were such incredible presenter on those shows.
You're very kind.
Did you make them up? Do you make up those emotions and feelings? And I mean, I don't know.
They're there.
How do you get about this?
They're there. I mean, they're down inside you. It's you either love music and love poetry and love doing things for people, or you don't. Anybody who's dated me will tell you, if you date Kwasi, he buys all your laundry, he buys
How
all
many
your
have
shoes.
you dated since your wife got off the picture?
Since
Your ex-wife.
since
How many?
You're fascinated by my ex-wife, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so, because
I'll give you a picture of her and her phone number.
You have pretty cool kids by her, so she must have influenced you a lot. I mean, I want to believe that in 7 years.
I loved her to bits. I still love her.
Yeah,
I mean, when you've loved somebody that much, it doesn't all go away. It's a lie if you say, oh, it all goes away. I mean, I think some people can turn love to hatred. But
would your current partner not be very upset to hear
No, my
you
current
say
partner
that
knows that
you
I
still love her?
No, of course. I mean, this is the mother of my 2 children. You know, this is somebody who I made a conscious effort to be with and to say whatever you need is my worry. You've got to love somebody to do that. You don't do that just because you're a good Samaritan. Even the good Samaritan had love. He may have had some good intentions, he had some money too, but he surely had love to do what he did. And yes, of course, I still love her. I wouldn't want to see her come to any harm. I mean, at the time where you're fighting and you're at each other's throats and, you know, I hate you, you know, you're saying the worst things to each other, but deep inside,
you're getting emotional.
No, deep inside,
A.K.A
you're doing
The
that
Finest.
because you're losing something that you adore. You know, I would have liked for a situation where we could be the worst of enemies and still be able to raise our children together, because my children love your mother. You can't
they have a good relationship?
They have to. They don't have a choice. I tell them all the time. I say, look, I have a fight with your mother. You don't have a fight with her. You know, you fight with your mother. I brought you into this world. I'll take you out. Yeah. Your duty is to look after your mother. I'm raising you right, so your mother doesn't have to ever have any need.
So how do they deal with the fact that the absence of their mother in your life, and perhaps the presence of others? You know, as kids, I mean, when kids get used to...
We fought, we fought, and there's been times where you're really upset and they know, and then they come and talk to you and you say, yeah, you know, I'm very offended by this, that happened. But as they've grown, they realize that, look, we're still one family.
Did you ever date white Caucasians?
Yeah, a few.
A few?
Very rich ones too.
From UK to
UK
Germany
and the
to
US.
Italy?
I had a lovely lady, you know. I guess I should have married her. Beth was adorable. After my girlfriend knows about her, so I can talk about Beth. Beth was wealthy to the point where she wasn't allowed to tilt her head because dollars would drop out of her ears. Yeah. But the point is, I guess she would have shot me, because if she even saw her friend dance with me, she'd cry, I don't want to share you with anybody. I don't want to share you with anybody.
What happened to that one? I mean,
you know, she didn't make me, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe, and I think I was traveling too much from the UK to the US. It was
His Royal Blackness, A.K.A The Finest. Let's switch gears and talk about your days. Is that the lady on the screen? No, let's get back.
No, that's not my ex-wife. My ex-wife is shorter.
So who is this one?
That's my darling Ava.
Okay, this is in UK, right?
That's not, I was in the US.
US, okay. We've spoken about this already. That's the bunch.
Nelly, he's a cool dude. Nelly's a gentleman, you know. He portrays this her bad boy image just for business. He's a cool customer, man.
Two-Face Idibia.
Yeah, Two-Face. He's a nice guy. D'banj, I like D'banj. You know, I think he's going to be maybe one of the biggest stars in the world, because he's got the conviction. He's got the belief.
That's your Jaguar in Kensington, right? Yeah. That's in your backyard.
Now,
KKD won the number.
I'd gone to visit a friend, I think that was in Pinner. This is at SLS Beverly Hills, one of my favorite hotels in Beverly Hills. It's lovely there. The rooms are fabulous rooms. I was talking on our BET International, the program Mad Swag. I was talking about personal branding with April Woodard, fantastic presenter, my ex-girlfriend.
You're really cool. I don't know.
Where do you get these pictures from?
I don't know what to say anymore.
Who's zooming? Cut.
Well, we're not cutting.
Okay.
So which one is this? Where were you? Were you on a show?
This was after the last BET Awards. This was during the BET Awards with Ava. Ava makes me happy. She loves poetry as well, and she's very smart.
So you move with your kind, really. You move with people who share the kind of things.
I think it's important for people. I mean, if you're thinking of just sleeping with people, it's a totally different ball game. But if you want to be Christian and you want to marry, even the Bible teaches you to be with people with whom you're equally yoked. You know, this whole thing of the boss marries the maidservant. No, No, it's for fairy tales.
It's for fairy tales.
No.
Let's shift gears and talk about your days at Presec. As an Odadie, what are your fun memories of Presec?
Saida Mahmoud, Alberto Nuchiga, Geraldo Nuchiga, Ernest Owusu-Afari, Obri, Henry Akufu, Ameflu, who beat me up.
These were your main
Ameflu beat me up. These are some of my seniors. Some of my
He beat
mates.
you up. What did you do wrong?
Ameflu wore my shirt, and I said, Ameflu, why do you put your sweat in my shirt?
Jesus.
You know,
where is he now?
senior.
Where is he now? I mean,
he's in London now.
If he's watching you, he could be watching you stream because we're streaming live on the internet.
I was very good at karate, but Ameflu was strong. You know, ever boy, you know, he had hot water dipped through, the wrong end of his body, and he was just strong. The boy beat me up so bad, I'll never forget that.
Let's talk about your relationship with Talo Oil, Ghana Tourist Board, World Press International Couriers. You are a real businessman, are you?
Well, the thing is, everybody has an angle. Everybody's selling something. You know, I tell some of the lady friends I know, when I see them in the afternoon in high heels and short clothes, I'm like, look, it's working hours. What are you selling? We're all selling something. I'm selling words. Let's not run away from it. That's what I do. I sell words. Sometimes I wear colorful clothing because the bottom line is people are looking for somebody who can come and host a show. If you're going to host the Ghana Music Awards, you're not going to be dressed like a banker.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to do banking, go into banking. Be Frank Edu. Be Andani. You know? But if you're in showbiz like I am, you're in a totally different ballgame. And don't forget, showbiz people make more money than bankers. Ghanaians don't seem to have come round to that yet. Show me the bank manager who makes more money than Jay-Z and Beyonce. Show me. Or show me the bank manager in England who makes more money than our top presenter, Jonathan Ross. You know, a lot of the money...
What about Ghana?
The structures are not there. But what are my rates? I charge 10,000 Ghana.
The banker in Ghana is really cool.
Bankers in Ghana make quite a bit of money. I think, some of them make, heads of banks can make maybe 22,000 a month. It's possible, maybe more. But don't forget, we don't count the perks. It's the perks. That's the detail.
The perks, that's the detail.
In Ghana, you don't pay your presenters well. I get paid in Ghana only 10,000 Ghana to do an event. For the same event in Nigeria, I get $15,000. For the same event in the States, I get much more. For the same event in England, I get much more.
You're still here. You still love it here.
I love it here because when I come here, I see my parents, and I see you, and I see Johnny Hughes.
Let's talk about
I see Nana Kwame Ohene-Boakye, and I see all my friends, and I see Sir Pius.
Director of Communications at GIPC.
Wow,
when you look back to that,
yeah.
Did you wonder why you got that job, or you think you deserved that job?
I deserved it.
And what were some of your achievements, if you could run us through
one
or two, and then looking forward, what do you want to see in GIPC?
Okay, what I want to see, not only in GIPC, but I challenge the president to challenge anybody who calls himself a director to have a manual for their department. Anybody who calls himself a director that does not have a manual for their department is not fit to be a director. And I say this again to the camera. If they call you director and you don't have a manual for your department, you are not fit.
When you say manual, you think that they should have a prescription of solutions, problems, challenges,
I tell you
how to fix it.
When you get to the level of director, your company must run smoothly even when you go to sleep. You cannot keep the institutional knowledge in your head. They pay you too much money, give you too many perks. So when you're away for a year, the company must run as if your spirit is still looking over them. And, I worked with a fantastic chief executive. Some say they didn't like his personal relations, but I tell you, he's a smart man. Robert Ahonka Lindsay. Smart man. You may not like him, but he's a smart man. And I tell you something, in Ghana, we need some smart men who can prescribe some very, very bitter medicine. There are some things that I disagree with him on, like some of the staff who he demoted. I think if you've got staff, the worst you can do is to demote them. If you don't want them, pay them their money, let them go. Because when you demote people in a company, they are still in the company. They are not gone. They're not going to give you their best. They're not your students, they're parents.
They're not your servants too.
And don't forget, once you have a government appointment, once your position is a government appointment, one of those people you may have demoted could be the next appointee in your post.
Now let's talk about public relations. You were a director.
If you will let me.
You complete this.
If you let me. Yeah, sure. So the director thing, when I was there, under the leadership of Robert Ahunkan Lindsay, and I got to give him credit for this because what I did would not happen if he wasn't the chief executive. I wrote a very clear, full-year public affairs and communications strategy. A full-year one, it's there. Whether it's perfect or not is not the issue. At least we had a strategy. We had a manual to work with. So that 20 years down the line, some new kid who's never been to school, who is put in that position, can go to what has been written over 20 years, updated every year, and say, this is what they did then, this is what I want to do now, and change it so that institutional knowledge is passed on from generation to generation. We don't want to just keep it all in our heads and die. You know, we never wrote books. Now we're looking to the Europeans to write our history for us. At least the Egyptians had scrolls. So what's this thing about directors not having manuals in the department? I want my staff to know very clearly that this is how we do this. When you want this, this is how it's done. And I'm not going to say I want to keep it all in my head because if I write it down, somebody will be appointed. If you're smart, do it. If the company lets you go, you will have another job. As for money, it's God that gives it. Yeah. You know, this whole, I think we're joking with our country. We don't love our country enough. If we love our country enough,
and this,
once you get that
see this is a leadership gap, or this is just attitudinal?
Look at Frimpong Boateng. He could have earned much more money working in Germany. He came to Ghana to work here. That's love for country. Do you understand? It's not just about, I know some people, you know, were abroad who lived in ghettos and they come over here and they get a political appointment and all of a sudden they try to act like they have social skills. You know, you don't have all these social skills just because the president is kind enough to say, you used to shine my shoes and I like you so much, I'm going to make you ambassador. If we're appointing people for their knowledge and those people are using their knowledge to serve the country well, once you rise to a certain level, you've got to leave something behind for posterity that people can refer to. And I think it's important that every director does that. You know, when I read even A. Sankuma's posts on Facebook, you know, his posts on Facebook are not just funny stuff. You know, sometimes he writes a bit of vitriolic stuff to kick the government in the backside once in a while, but he's teaching people even on Facebook. Yeah. You know, there's a young chap, Johnny Hughes, once in a while, he writes stuff on Facebook. He's teaching his colleagues, his contemporaries, and those who are looking up to him on Facebook. You know, let's do something. Oh, yeah, Mami.
So, I mean, let's wrap up on the question I was asking you about what you make of public relations practice now. I mean, we do get a lot of PROs for companies and
how do you call yourself a public relations practitioner when you have no control over language? You see, you may be pleasant, but pleasant is not enough. So pleasant is good for sitting in the reception. I think the difficulty we have is that people appoint people in public relations positions as a favor. You know, as like, really? You know, like she was the secretary and she's been here for a long time, so let's give her this post. It's a whole enterprise. It's an enterprise that brings in repeat customers.
But a lot of public relations practitioners are really big-time professionals lately.
Like,
I mean, I don't want to put.
You see, I don't want to name and shame. I don't want to name and shame. But you see, once we start naming and we start challenging, we start saying, what damage control did they do here? I mean, when I was at ABC, I mean,
Matilda Asante, for example, is Director of Communications for Access Bank, and she's a fine journalist who has transitioned into public relations.
Yeah, and, you know, unless you start stating clearly what damage control they're doing and what you know, because Access Bank does more direct marketing than PR, if you ask me. If you ask me.
What about El Ancra with Fair Wages Commission?
I don't know what they do there. Let's be fair. You know, once I don't know what people do, I cannot comment on them.
A.K.A The Finest.
But if you look at how our organizations are operating at the moment, when you have an organization like, say, the Ghana Water Company or ECG, and you're a PR person, then you might as well resign, because what damage are you controlling? The damage is ongoing.
Thank you very much, His Royal Blackness, KKD, and it's great to have you on the show. And,
good to talk to you,
I wish you very well in your
thanks for having me.
And my name is Stephen Nt. Thanks to all of you who made time to watch us. Join us again on Monday for another interesting edition of PM Express. Good night and have a great weekend.